some of the biggest names from the business world. Let me start there. Mr. Sudhakar Rao, Director of Branding, ICFAI Group.
Mr. Sudhakar Rao. Mr. Sudhakar Rao, you represent a very big university here. And education itself found mention in the package. Tell us how technology in education is going to contribute to growth of India's GDP through skilling.
Good evening to everyone, and thank you, Vineet and Mr. Anurag Batra, for having me here on NewsX. I would also like to respond to the earlier question briefly, sentimentally, and then get into what Mr. Batra has asked me about. I am also on a scale of 1 to 10 closer to 5 or little less than 5. We are judged so much not by our intentions but by our actions, and therefore the government has fallen short on that. Initially it was good, but when it came to the stimulus package and the grandstanding announcement and the subsequent detailing, I think that's where the huge trough of expectations happened. And therefore, I'm around 5. And even if you take one particular sector of MSME, where the recent survey of AIMO says that close to 40% are beyond recovery. I mean, they are suffered in the last 60 days, 65 days, no doubt about it. But I think these signals were there even before. The pre-COVID GDP growth of 3.1% should have actually startled all of us, and enough measures should have been initiated. Now, an intent as recently as a week or 10 days back, justifying a recovery process and trying to see everything in positive state is actually wrong. In my view, in times of crisis, the last man who's standing in the queue should be first saved. I think in this case, the construction workers or the interstate workers, as I would like to call, what has happened to them? There are no estimates. One estimate of 45 crores of interstate workers, which has several layers of definitions, several categories of explanation. And then there's this lowest estimate of, say, 1 crore or 6 crores and 8 crores. It's kept on moving up. But I think somewhere in between, even if I reasonably assume it for 20 crores, there is a huge size. And then they are not part of our priority plan. And therefore, something is seriously wrong, even in intentions. So that's where I give it a 4 or 5. Now, if I judge it based on who are, that may not be appropriate. We should judge it by those who are worst affected. And therefore, I had taken that example. I come back to education. Within education, we are, say, 37 crores of students from school, higher education across various institutions in this country. That's a huge number. Now, schools and colleges are closed. Slowly, on lockdown 1 has happened. Every sector is opening up, but there is no much talk about education. I think a segment as large 37 crores size of population will have to be looked at, and comprehensive thinking has to be applied to it. In my view, the suggestions from the government for the protocols when we reopen, how the blended learning, that's where the tech is going to come in, is going to boost it up. Otherwise, our measure of the impact of this lockdown on education and the future generations will definitely be quite blurred. And we will still be groping in the dark. The way we have groped as far as the interstate workers are concerned is going to be another disaster. I think sooner the regulatory bodies, the government, and everybody concerned within the education industry, both private and public players, have to come together, put together protocols, and we have to open up. The only decision that we have to take here is, are we opening up or are we not opening up? If we are not opening up, there is no question of any discussion. Only there is a discussion when we decide to open it up. It could be August, it could be December. But then clarity has to be there. We need to build the parental confidence among the population to send their children to schools and colleges, and that's how it will be built up.
Thank you, Sudhakar. Admissions are a good barometer of how the economy is doing. Has been there any impact on your admissions this year? And tell us, generally, has been there an impact? And I'll ask the same question to Dr. Sharma. Has been there an impact on your admissions? Give us a story from the numbers. If you were to take in May 100 students, have you taken 100 students? And overall, did you have to, from an overall application pool, how did the numbers move? Mr. Rao?
I would like to tell you about the ICFI group. We have ICFI business schools for which we have conducted entrance examination and interviews and selection processes way back in the month of Feb. And we had given admission offers and they have accepted and paid the fees and joined. So roughly about 10,000 students in our system are currently going through regular online courses as per their timetable. So that's taken care of. Now, the undergrad courses where we run across ICFI universities, we have about 11 universities. These programs have got their admission calendar generally from the month of, say, April to June. So that's got a little postponed because of this lockdown. And what was taken care of before March was good, probably with even others also. But with respect to majority of universities which have undergrad programs and postgrad programs that pick up only after, say, June, July, after May, they have actually taken a kind of postponement. So it is true to us and true to others as well that please add another 60 days and then things should be normal. But I feel this is without any estimate which I'm saying, but looking at the number of applications that are being received by various universities, that is actually as low as, it has gone down by 40%, 30 to 40% at least. This is an average. Some of them have actually taken a hit of 70%. Now, the students who are actually residing in certain locations are not showing the propensity to move towards another location. For example, somebody who's residing in Jaipur or Rajasthan is not willing to go to, say, Maharashtra. Somebody who is living in Karnataka may not like to go to Delhi to study. I think that is an important metric for us to look at. And the third and the most important thing is the debate of the value of education will come up only in such times of crisis. Supposing you run online courses, the parents and the stakeholders will come up with a debate saying, you probably must be spending a little less, so why should we pay the same fees as you were charging earlier? Well, that has to be handled very differently, and it can be handled. But then these are three important trends that we see within our education system, especially in the higher education sector.
Where would the Indian economy be in 90 days?
Okay.
Mr. Sudhakar Rao?
Yeah, in the next 90 days, it's going to be negative growth. I think that is very realistic and we should be prepared for that. By the time we talk next, I think 40% of the MSMEs will be vanished, and that's very, very grim.